Good evening, Kansas City. Thank you for tuning in to our Restore KC program. We're so sorry we're a little fashionably late. Our start time was 6, but we had some IT issues, so we're here live at 6:30. My name is Paul Gutierrez, Director of Programs and Events for the Kansas City Museum, and tonight, again, we're live from the second floor education room right behind me. Or in the future, when we reopen the museum, hopefully in late summer of 2021, this space will be used for public programs, events, lectures, tour groups, docent programs, education team. Right now, the goal is to reopen the Kansas City Museum Stage 1, which is a mansion, Corinthian Hall, in late summer 2021 as a new museum of Kansas City history and culture heritage. In the meantime, we're still doing capital campaign fundraising. We have our content team and education team building all the curriculum and for school groups to come, hopefully next fall. But in the meantime, we'll continue with these virtual and hopefully next spring, maybe with safe outdoor events. But till then, this is our way we'll do programming. So it's my honor and pleasure to introduce you to my good friend and colleague, Peregrine.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for having us.
Hi, Peregrine. How are you?
I'm really well. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Good to see you
Good
virtually.
to see you.
Peregrine, do you want to let the audience know about our partnership that we had with the West 18th Street Fashion Show? Believe this is our third year that we've partnered with you all.
It is our third year, and Anna Marie Tutero, Paul Gutierrez, and I think we sat down now like about 3 or 4 years ago, and we needed like a bigger spectrum for fundraising, and we needed the assistance of a nonprofit, and I 100% am on board with the Kansas City Museum and its development and its intention. So it felt like the way that I like to think about the arts, which is something that is both inclusive but feels exclusive. So the mansion is completely that. It's just so elegant, and as it becomes more and more developed, it becomes more and more community safe and just a great platform for things to happen in Kansas City.
No, I love that idea. I mean, when you came up with that idea, we're building a museum of KC history and culture heritage, and what a better way for us to elevate artists and designers with our platform. I love the idea that how our collection is always accessible to those artists for inspiration for their collection. So that was something that I was really excited to work with the designers and picking who's applying. So it's been a great partnership and collaboration. I love the idea that our satellite location was our temporary location because it was bad weather. That never happened. But this year, what you reimagined as the artistic director was really neat and highlighting different institutions. And I love how one of the designers who was on with us tonight, Corinthian Hall, was one of those venues.
It's true. And I've worked on a lot of different projects, and Hadley Clark did a great installation. I did a photo shoot with you about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And also just Craig's work just seemed so perfect. Craig Roner, Novo Design, who we'll talk to in a moment, he truly is an artist who is segued into working with the body as a medium. And so just watching him navigate the Bauhaus and navigate using models, living, breathing protein sculptures. And I envisioned his work in that space because it was so linear and so dynamic, in contrast to the very decorative and elegant pieces by Linda Lighton and the stained glass and all of the things that you guys have not only preserved, but enhanced with contemporary work. So when we were curating the different designers into different spaces and making the conversation, we wanted it to sort of feel like this funeral or a debutante party or something very strange. And of course, your space was the first one on the list for Craig.
Well, thank you, Peregrine. Well, before you introduce our designers, I want to let our audience know that throughout the program, if anybody has any questions or comments, just drop them on the comment box below. I will go away to give the visual of you four talking together. But if and when there's a question, I'll pop back in to ask the designers or you. So go ahead and introduce our designers, and I will step away. All right. You want to know who's on the screen tonight, Peregrine?
We have Craig Groner of Noah Design. We have Vincent Branch of Kaye. We have Diana Holt of René La Rouge, and each of these designers was featured in our film, our major pivot of 2020, a movie called Summer in Hindsight. And my board worked with the Kansas City Museum and all of these incredible locations to place these fantastic designers in these regional spaces. And we are now finishing up the director's cut, which we debuted at the Boulevard Drive-In successfully. And we're just sort of, tying off loose ends and bringing it together so that we can enter the full-length movie into different film festivals.
Thank you for the introduction.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and begin the conversation?
Ask each of them a question, or how would you like to go, Paul?
Yeah, sure. I guess we can start with those questions that we developed for each of the designers. Just then a brief introduction of how they began, how they're designing. If you want to go ahead and ask those questions, that would be great.
Yeah, of course. So I think everyone here, it's their first year designing for us. So that's exciting. And I guess I'll start with I don't know, it's like the Brady Bunch over here. Who wants to go first? Who wants to start it? Who wants to start with who wants to start? Like, what was like, who has an answer? Go ahead. Then Sean.
Craig. No, I want Craig to go first.
You want me to go first? All right, I'll go first.
Okay.
Well, so I was very excited to participate in the show this year. If you read my bio, which was uninteresting, I can understand why you might not have. This was not only my first West 18th Street, this was my first foray into fashion ever. I have a sculpture background, I have an art history background, so it was I felt comfortable as this being a starting point and a launching point for me to move into a medium that I was literally learning while I was trying to figure out how to make a mask in March. So I attended the shows the last few years, and last year I was sitting at the runway at the corner and I was watching these wonderful things go by, and I thought, if I could learn a little bit more than to just thread my machine, I maybe could participate in this next year. And so the day after the show last year, I started putting pencil to paper and sketching out designs and really learning how to use my machine. I'd hemmed things before. I'd created a pair of pants and some dresses and fixed a few things for wives and friends, but certainly never anything to this extent. And I was so really lucky to get to be partnered with the West 18th Street. The concept this year was one that I was very comfortable with. Even though we had to pivot, I was so very lucky to get to partner with the shoot at the Kansas City Museum, because with the Beaux Arts style of the museum being the predecessor truly in history to the Bauhaus, the Bauhaus was really a movement that was kind of away from that Beaux Arts traditional style. I loved that I got to participate in that. It was a great experience to get to be a part of. And quite frankly, I'm not entirely sure how I was picked to be with some of these other amazing designers. I mean, these are people that are like professionals, and I'm some hack on a sewing machine with my grandmother's simplicity patterns trying to figure stuff out. So there you go. I went first.
Dion. René La Rouge.
I've actually been trying to get in this show since I started designing. So when they I had one of my models who presented it to me, because I was going through a transition. And so she sent it to me. I was like, I don't know. So I applied. And when they called me and said I got it, I'm like, yes, I can knock this off my list. And for the most part, I advocate for plus size and curvy women. So us being able to be on the runway, to have so many people see that plus size women they can still be sexy and chic. I was like, this is a good move for my team. And so when they said we were going to be in a movie, I think it was like, yes, this is even better. And then for it to be our first time on the show, it was a truly amazing experience. And then I started like Craig, I taught myself, honestly. YouTube was my teacher. So being able to be a part of the show, I still felt like, I don't know if my knowledge of sewing is that good, because I've seen shows prior and I follow it. And I was like, I don't know if I'm good enough for it, but they were so encouraging. They were so helpful. They helped me through every step of the way. And I'm just truly grateful to be a part of this. And next year, hopefully, we'll be back to whatever West 18 has in store for us. But this was truly an amazing experience for me and my models. This was great.
It was an honor to have everyone here, so you're going to make me cry. And Sean, sir.
Well, this was my first time, yes, just like everyone else in West 18th. It was an exciting opportunity. I had just recently started sewing again, almost like Craig. I had a past, but Peregrine sought me out, and I was only making trousers, and she was like, "We want you to be in our show. Like, your trousers are so great." And I get this letter, and I thought I was only going to put trousers in the show. I mean, Peregrine's like, "Your trousers are fine. We could just have naked guys," because I was just making trousers, at the time. And I was like, "Oh, I have to do more than that." So I actually pushed myself to do more. I start making shirts, and so on and so forth. And then IE comes, what the world and internet, the world, the whole globe, the universe will see this movie. Similarly, all of our stories are so shineful, meaning bright like stars, and I think has been a great experience for each of us.
And I think it was really incredible to have the opportunity to also on our end as a board just be really nervous, and because we had to tell everybody like, hey, there's this pandemic, there's this cultural revolution, this uprising that's so important, and we're gonna have to make a movie. And so like Van Sean, having him be in the Nelson and having the opportunity to put Renee LaRouche's beautiful women in this chapel, like in Powell Gardens, is just, like just the imagery. Like when you work on something for 20 years, the West 18th Street Fashion Show had this opportunity to do something that was ongoing instead of just this one night that would, of course, be very well documented. But we, Brooklyn and April and Frankie and, Mac, all of these people that work together, Jeff Everard, were so confident in this project. And then to take this risk, we knew how much we were asking of our designers, and especially under such stressful conditions and under such fiscal compromise, just the way that everybody came to the table, and to make a movie with somebody as high quality as Jeremy Osborne and Katam Jabbar, Cynthia Harrington, just, knowing like that we were sort of throwing all these different challenges at our designers. We all wanted to be very respectful and careful that it wasn't just a movie that had some fashion in it, that it was a movie that was not just focused on fashion, but focused on the people that made them and the bodies that they chose for their garments and the situation that each designer was in.
Well, I'd say that goal was accomplished. And I don't know about the other designers, but in so many ways, the things that people might have seen as hurdles or hiccups were such a blessing for me. I mean, like I said, I was learning how to sew on the fly. I spent the entire month of March sewing masks, which couldn't have been it was the best thing I possibly could have done because it was just practice. I got comfortable with the medium, and got used to my machine and got my head out of the process of how I thought everything was going to work. And I just got to work. And so many times, and maybe the other designers can agree with me, maybe this is a experience that's personal or not, but work just begets work. Once you get rolling, if you keep it rolling, it's when the magic happens. It's when the wonderful experience happens. And so in so many ways, even though the process was broken up from what I expected, the breakup was really the best thing that could have possibly happened because it made me move in a direction that maybe I wasn't super comfortable. But once I got rolling, it was fantastic.
So I'm going to ask this question that Paul asked me to ask of you guys, which is really valid in a segue to what you said. What's it like to be a designer in a part of the United States that's not necessarily designated as a fashion-centric space?
I'll start. It's difficult at times, especially I guess with the venue or the type of aesthetic that I have with plus size women, and just across the world how people view plus size women in fashion. They're pushed to the side. So bringing it here to Kansas City and telling people about the show and telling them how big the venue is and how much exposure and how many networks you can get in with it, it can be a bit difficult because a lot of people, if they haven't worked with you before, what I've noticed here, it's like, I don't know about that. But it's like, no, this is like something great that you need to be a part of. Like you need to meet these people. And so trying to bring that high fashion into a city that's used to, I would say, loungewear, or they're not used to more of the higher end fashion pieces that take time to make, it can be difficult, but you do have your diamonds in the roughs. It's like, okay, I need that custom piece. I love what you're doing. I can't wait till you start rolling. I'm ready to see you shine. And I think a lot of people want that here, but I don't know if they're ready or they're afraid to actually take the leap into what all it takes to be like a custom fashion designer, a higher end brand, or create those pieces that are unique to that one client or unique to that one aesthetic. But it's a learning experience because when you venture out, you know what to expect. If you can take the nose here, you can take the nose anywhere and then excel and shine where you go and you're like, okay, I can bring this back to my city and they may like it. But if not, let me go somewhere else and see what's going on and maybe I can bring that back. So it's kind of a give and take for me. I don't know if that's for everybody else, but that's kind of how I've experienced it.
One of the things I loved so much about your application was how I feel like it gets really like, I don't want the West 18th Street Fashion Show to be the Midwest Kansas City fashion. Like, I really love when people don't know where it is. And I feel the same way with your work where I think it's when you give permission to anyone to feel beautiful and to feel that they're allowed to wear something that fits their body and has a conversation about their body, it shouldn't just be it's separated, right? So when we do our runway, we want everybody to be on the runway. We don't want it to be like a plus size fashion show. We want it to be a fashion show because, I mean, plus what, right? That's what I say. When women come into Brady's like, oh, do you have plus size? And I try and make light of it, but plus what, like water plus more water or like what, because everyone is different and everyone is entitled to feel beautiful. And the truth is the better you feel about yourself and how you're presenting yourself, the better you're going to walk down the street, make decisions and present yourself. It makes for a better society.
Totally agree. And I've been lucky to work with some women who not only they inspire me more than I think I inspire them, but I've had a chance to work with some really dope women and
Your
they
models are amazing. Yeah,
they push like we're a family. And it's crazy to think that 8 years ago when I started that I would be where I'm at right now, because I never imagined I would be in a movie, I would be traveling, I would have a group of women who encourage each other, and we try to find things that'll make our lives better so we can walk in our purpose. And this show was just like another step for us. And so it's forever grateful. If they never tell you, I'll tell you, like, we are forever grateful. Like, seriously.
Oh. And Sean, sir. And Sean is reporting from New Orleans. I saw his work
Yes.
in the New Orleans Independent Fashion Week the first year with Melissa Clark of EKS, who's also in the show. And so, yeah, you know, a little bit of pulling teeth that got him to Kansas City, a little bit of watching him build faith in himself. And so, yeah, it's true. He said, I just make trousers. It's still summer in my mind. And I said, okay, then trousers it will be. But yeah, you definitely. What is it like to be like an artist and a tailor in New Orleans?
Well, I think I think for the most part, custom is rare. Custom is a rarity. I think what we all offer here is a true art, artisanship. It's craftsmanship. It's work. It is definitely an art. It is our craft. It is what we do. Just as Craig said, he's began making masks and some people would call that a craft. Uh, but he has developed his skill and made it into a technique, which that is what artists do. Being an artist in New Orleans has not been easy. I began making the transition back to the art scene, design scene, creative scene, visual scene um, in 2018. And it was a slow start, very, very slow. I actually began to purchase fabric for myself and make the trousers for myself to showcase my work. Um, and I like high-end fashion. I like avant-garde, different. So I wanted that, and I tried to exude that to other gentlemen to get the buy-in, right? And marketed myself as a trouser maker, and then coined this term, the tailor trouser.
Hmm.
And I got a few clients here and there. It will be sporadic, and um, I have not. I'll say it publicly. I have not made a living off this in the past 2 years. Uh, I did some side work. Actually, have a part-time job. Well, had a part-time job pre-COVID, serving and waiting tables at this cafe and bartending, which helped me get the business off the ground. You know, that's what helped me buy fabric worth $85 a yard. Those drinks. So it's hard, and even during this time, during the pandemic, I've had clients, and I did masks in the beginning. It was a struggle trying to do masks in the beginning because I didn't want to come off as a mask maker. I'm not a mask maker. I'm a tailor. I'm here to design, make custom menswear for all shapes and sizes. Because I had individuals the other day ask, "Do you make clothes for big boys?" Indeed. That's what tailors do. I draft a pattern. We start from scratch. uh, so I'm at the point now where we're seeing, and we're all seeing it across the world here today, where businesses are closing, major department stores, restaurants. I mean, we can go, the list goes on of different types of businesses that are closing down because of the times we're in. And I'm sure life is not the same for any artistic or creative individual during this time. And if I don't say anything else during this hour, but I'm sure I will, I definitely would like to say um, that, and something I'm saying to myself in this day and time, uh, keep going, right? Follow your heart, right? Follow your vision and don't give up, because I've given up once before, in 2005, Katrina, and I can say that because I gave up. I was like, I can't do this. This is not. I can't do this right now. And it was a big catastrophe. It was a disaster here in New Orleans, and people had to get their lives back together. So I put that aside, and another life change brought me back to it at the end of 2017. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to it. And times like this would try to, and may some, may stop some, but hopefully, as we begin to try to spin this country around in a new direction, that hope comes, and people continue their drive in their dream. Yeah. So I mean, even though it's hard, we're gonna maul through the concrete here.
So this segues to a great question, or sort of it threads into this idea that Paul and I were talking about, and also this idea of restoration, which is, what do you think can be said about how people are dressing now? Like with this pandemic, with this rejuvenated awareness about like racism and inequality in our country, how do you think that is affecting the way that people dress themselves and present themselves, not just on an intimate level, but kind of what you're saying, Venchan, like, what is it to see these department stores closing down? Is it a return to luxury? Is it a return to awareness? Or is it like, what is it? Like, what, if you could talk about the future of fashion in the context of what's happening now, what would you say? Yeah, or Vincent, go ahead.
I would say, and this is a kind of daredevil opinion for me to say, but again, as things begin to shift, fashion is shifting too. They're having these conversations internationally and all over about fashion and what direction fashion is going in, and how fast fashion is somewhat coming to a halt, and somewhat not, because a lot of people are buying athletic wear because we're exercising more, right? So that business has really grown, and I've seen individuals just start doing COVID, that type of business, and they're growing, and that's now. But where I would like to see fashion is that it gets to that place that it is an art. It's not just about t-shirts and jeans or joggers. And I love a pair of joggers. Don't get me wrong. I love a pair of joggers. But just like we're going through these times because there's a time and place for everything and everything under the sun, I think there is those increments of fashion too that need to be again recognized, that clothing was made for specific types of places, events, occasions, and not that everything is about like everyday wear and ready to wear, sort of say.
From the bedroom to the boardroom. No. You're like, oh, no. Dion, please.
For me, where like you said, I'll piggyback off of that. There is a lot of fast fashion at this current moment, because I don't know how long we're going to be in the pandemic, but people are at home a lot, so they want to be comfortable. They want t-shirts, like you said, joggers. Like, I'm a sweatpants type of person, but when I go out, I go out, So what I hope to see is, like you said, when it's all said and done, I honestly think people are going to put on their best of whatever they got, because they've been in the house for so long. which is good for the custom designers and, you know, the people who are trying to come up where all the bigger brands are falling down. Because now that gives us a highlight like, hey, I can do this. I see where fashion is going. I see the forecast of what's happening, and I have what you need. And if once the economy does recover, I do feel like people will get back to it. And some of those folks who are like us trying to come up in the game, we're going to be those global brands now, because through all of this, we're still pushing through. We're still trying to create something for people, and we're still trying to stay within that fast but also custom fashion world, because like you say, we have to adapt. And if we stay just solely on custom, then we just gonna be spending, like you said, all this money on $50 and $85 a yard fabric, and nobody's gonna put it on. So, you know, I think I love where it's going, to where you can still be comfortable. What is, I think the word maybe athleisure, that's what they call it, to where you can still be comfortable, but it's still in a high-end piece. It still has some type of customization to it. And that's where I'm seeing where we're going. And I think if we as designers don't pivot that way, then we're going to be like some of these big box brands trying to scramble up. And like Van Shine said, in that space, like, am I doing the right thing? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this really my calling? Or should I just follow the rest of everybody else? And this is no knock to anybody that's doing it, but should I just follow the crowd and just keep pushing stuff out just so I can make a buck, which takes away the artistry of it all?
Beautiful answer. Thank you. Craig, how do you feel about well, it's interesting because Craig comes at it from a slightly different perspective, because you come at it from like the industry of the art world, which it's interesting. I'm more of a fine artist. I'm not a fashion designer. I'm a curator of fashion, and you guys doing the best that you can do and giving you space to do it. Craig and I kind of have a similar brain set where when we think about fast fashion, it's like, well, that fast fashion is based off of these really high-end things. So, like, what do you think, Craig? What do you have to say about that way of thinking?
Well, fast fashion. First of all, I just posed this question to you all out there in Facebook land. How is it that Old Navy gets more expensive when it goes to the thrift store? Like, I cannot understand this. Does it age that well? I mean, I don't get it. I mean, as far as to your point, how I think things are going to change, how the pandemic's going to change, how I see this, and coming from it from a more artist perspective, I always think of myself every day when I get dressed. I was never in a position where I was in quarantine. My day job required that I was out every day working. I used it as an opportunity to step up even another step, to dress even nicer than I might normally. And I found immediately that the few people that were out noticed, because it gave them some joy. It gave them a spark. It gave them a reason to want to see people. And I want to approach it as this. I want to see this as an opportunity, as opposed to a way to curl up in a ball and give up. Oh my God, people are never going to spend money on these garments and clothes again. I want to say just the opposite. I think people are so starved for an event, so starved for a party, so starved to go to a music show or a venue or an opening, that this might be an opportunity for artists to take advantage of that fully and wholly, and to reintroduce that idea of the dinner jacket or the cocktail hour, or so that clothes are made for more specific things, so they can still have their leisure wear at home. Because, you know, I love pajamas as much as anybody, but I'm not going to wear them out. I don't want to look like I'm going to Walmart. I'm not interested in that. And I do want to say just briefly, because it was mentioned earlier, I feel really lucky being in a place like Kansas City, in a place that's not necessarily fashion forward in so many ways. First of all, it's the only thing I've ever really known. I've gotten to travel the world, so I've been very lucky in that aspect. But so much of what I draw from and what inspires me is right here around me. It is the everyday that you can make special by altering, by adding just a little piece of silk or different kinds of buttons or a different kind of cut. And I think sometimes when you do that with people, it's easier for them to transition from one to the other. At least I see that a lot. Perhaps the other designers have a different perspective on it, but that's just the way that I'm trying to come from it. So I'm not interested in bringing high art down. I'm interested in bringing the low arts up. I'd rather raise the level of the water than to sink one of the boats. So that's really the perspective I want to come from it, and I see this as an opportunity to do that. This is an opportunity because come out of this one way or the other, people are going to be hungry for beauty. They're gonna need it. They need it right now. I mean, everything that we've had happen this year, they need it right now. And I feel like it's a responsibility of mine to give that a little bit.
I had a couple of moments during the movie, like filming with you guys, where I wondered if I had like subconsciously just made the situation where I could have these VIP moments in these museums or these beautiful architectural spaces, because I was so hungry, being, in the Nelson or being in the chapel, being at the Kansas City Museum, and even at the Nerman, just like getting to revisit work I had seen and interface with it. I've been to the Toy and Miniature Museum many times, but just to be able to be in those spaces that had been not forbidden, but it was almost like taboo walking through these spaces, because you want to protect your fellow human, and here we all had the opportunity to be careful among each other. And I'm bragging because you can't control it, but we did get out of the pandemic, get out of the movie without anyone getting sick, and that was really important. The other question that Paul presented that I'm going to ask you, and it's a complicated one, is there a difference, or what is the difference between like art and fashion?
The one word answer, necessity.
But you could argue that art is a necessity. I mean,
I didn't say which one was necessary.
Oh, you're right. You're right. You're going to comment on that. Van-Sean, what do you think? I mean, you grew up in a city where that stuff I see no difference between fine art, costuming, garment wearing, and celebration and ceremony. Like, what do you think the difference between art and fashion is in your city?
I don't think, I really don't think there is a difference, because it is intertwined so deeply. Even now, the younger Mardi Gras Indians are making like avant-garde skirts and tops that are sleeveless, and it's a very different type of Mardi Gras costume that's ever been done before. And this city has had trends in the culture for so long. Probably goes back to the 1920s with seersucker here in New Orleans. So.
It's amazing. I always say when I get nervous in a lecture, because it's so encompassing, I always say like, oh, art is the ability to turn material into thought, right? So that can be material, is everything. It's space, it's sound, it's air. With John's collection, with Rene LaRouche, with this design, I was really wanting to make this incredibly like not Madonna, but just this really great conversation about sexuality. And the song that Calvin wrote for your collection is just so hot. And so we went out to the grocery store and I guess made a list of all the fruit that I could find. And so if you see the movie, when you see the movie, and it will be, we will syndicate it to the best of our ability in the best format that we can get. Her models are just like, they have all this luscious fruit, dragon fruit, pineapples. And it's just, I was just seeing all of these great paintings come to life, and it's just been, your collection specifically has been really inspiring to me, because there was a very big contrast between like the fruit and the curves of the women and the bold colors that you chose for our Bauhaus theme. Like I do feel that your work had that transcendent artful thing happen.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I've always said, and I'm a firm believer that art is fashion. Fashion is art. And I say that just because if you can get a piece of fabric it can be the same type of fabric, but it'll have a different pattern on it. And I may make a shirt out of it. Then Sean may make ruffles and something very bold with it. Mr. Rohr, he may do something like he did with his umbrellas and do something totally different. So I think art and fashion is the perspective of how you see it. And when people do see fashion shows and they come to fashion shows, I don't think they're there for the clothing, but I think they're there for the incumbent experience, the entire feel of it all, just to see how you took a blank canvas. And this is what I call every piece of what is fabric I get. You take a blank canvas and you turn it into something amazing. And people ask, like, I've had this question asked me before, because it can take months to create a fashion show. It can take months to create a collection just for 2 to 3 minutes. And I've had people ask me, like, well, why do you do all of that for just those 2 to 5 minutes? Because the artistry of it all. You know, you're getting to see a piece of me that a lot of people don't get to see. You're getting to see inside of my soul how I see the world, how I see women. You don't get to see the before when you do a fitting and they're just like, but then when you put the whole piece together, they're just like, oh wow. It's like their whole persona changes. So I think that anything is art to me. And most definitely a lot of fashion pieces come from what we see around us in museums and artists. So to me, there is no variation. There's no difference. It's just how people perceive it.
Now, what I learned during this process is actually the fashion aspect of art is really attractive to me, because in so many ways, art, sculpture, painting, it's this thing that's separate from our lives, which is terrible. It shouldn't be, but in so many ways it is. And Perry, and you touched on this when you said you kind of felt like when you were in these museums, you were in these kind of forbidden spaces. And so many times things retire to those museum spaces and they no longer get to breathe and be alive. Whereas with fashion, it's alive every second. I mean, it moves, it gets to be a part of that person. It has an intimate life with the person that's wearing it. There's a different kind of breath than just like a sculpture, a Moore sculpture on the lawn at the Nelson Atkins or something, which is an absolutely stunning piece of sculpture. But the fashion has a collaborative aspect to it, which is just such a wonderful experience to get to see.
That's definitely, it's immediate.
Yes, so much more
yeah.
so much more so.
I mean, you think about it more, you think of it patinaing and changing over time. You know, like there's so many parallels between like restoration of art and tailoring of a garment, or, you know, mending. Like I feel like in this future, I hope that people have more of a sense of preserving and caring for, and also accepting their garment as it lives and breathes and becomes something else. If you buy something made from silk, you know, it is the outer shell of a worm, and then the string is made into this way that is worn on your body. And, you know, you look at things and like you go to the mat and there's the silk undergarment of the samurai is still like falling to pieces, but it protected them from arrows because it's so tightly woven, you know? Like in terms of restoration, Paul's presented me with another question. We have about 15 minutes left. And then we'll take questions from the audience. But What would you say in terms of the future? I know the future is like such a big thing, but what would you say? I'm going to change the question a little bit and say, like, what would you say to the person who wants to buy more elegant and beautiful and custom clothes? How can you give them the language and the freedom and how can they do that?
I will say quality over quantity, most definitely. Do your research. Make sure that when you do, if you want a custom piece, make sure that you're able to fully commit to what comes with getting that custom piece. And because I don't think a lot of people understand the process, so I'm going to put that out there. You have to fully commit to the customization process. And if you aren't ready for that, then I would say, even if you buy higher end pieces, it's still the quality of the material. Make sure you know what you're buying. Now, make sure that if you have this piece, this is one of those staple pieces in your wardrobe that can go from you to your daughter. It's going to keep recycling itself over time. But yeah, just make sure your people know the full process of what it takes to be custom, to get a custom piece, and the patience of it all, because you'll get people that'll say, and I'll try to keep this brief because I know we got a little less time, but you'll get customers or clients that want the piece, but then they want to give you maybe, and it's an intricate piece, and they'll give you what I need it in a week. It doesn't work that way. And so that's why I say fully commit to the process. Allow your designer, allow your artist to be exactly that, an artist. Let them, with your help, let them guide you to what they see is best for you, which fits inside their aesthetic. And if you do that, I think every time you'll come out with something more amazing than what you ever expected. So
that's great advice. That's beautiful advice. And can we just say that about everything in the world? All things food, shelter, just general human behavior. But Sharon, I think you would probably have something similar to say. I've seen you. That's how I met you. I asked you to make something custom. So
Yeah, there's definitely a turnaround time. There is a total difference from off the rack and ready to wear, as I like to call it, and custom, which can be compared to haute couture. It takes time, 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 and time is important. And in some cases, there's possibly an express fee that can also apply to a rushed, because that's what you're doing. You're rushing the process, as Dion said, the customization process. So, yeah, time is important. Time. I don't really know how else to market or to get people to appreciate custom unless they've actually worn it, because I don't think I was able to appreciate it till after I made my own trouser. And I made my first trouser in it was 2003. And I had help that time because it's hard to fit yourself. That's what I think, like, the hardest thing for someone to do. But this time around, I did it on my own. But it takes time. Time is important, definitely.
everything good takes time.
I would say to somebody who maybe looks at the price and time or the commitment of a custom made garment or a garment that's made for them, I would ask them, what price is pleasure? Because there's different levels of pleasure, right? There's a chocolate shake from the place down the street. It's pretty pleasurable. But what's the best chocolate shake you've ever had in your entire life? That's the difference. It's that kind of thing. That moment, that happiness that you felt on maybe a big day of your life, that you celebrated in, where you look good, you felt good. Maybe it's your wedding day or your graduation or a friend's big formal. You can feel that way all the time. You don't have to save that. It can be Tuesday night and you can feel that way if you want, but it takes a little bit of work and time and effort. You got to step out of the sweatpants, maybe. That's okay though.
Yeah. Well, sometimes when people fuss at our store, when people come into Brady's, they, something is handmade or silk or there's real lace, and they're like, oh, like, I can get this at this, and you're like, okay, well, go ahead and get this at that. But also, when somebody can't decide if they want to get something, I learned from this European lingerie shop, this woman said to me, well, you have spent more money on worse things. I was like, can't argue. We've all spent more money on something that we don't enjoy, that isn't beautiful, that we rushed into, on different levels. So I like to think about that. Paul, would you like to join us? And say hello to us again. Hello.
Hi. I just been back here backstage listening to you all. I love how you guys talk about fashion and art and how those are married to each other and they live together. I want to be mindful of your time as well. We have about 5 minutes left. I want to ask each designer, where do you find your garments? Where can we go and see your collection?
Dion?
Well, hi guys. You can find my stuff. You can find a lot of my pictures of what I do on Instagram at Renee LaRouge. You can look on my website, www.reneelarouge.com. And then I also have a business page on Facebook for Renee LaRouge. So if it's anything you ever see that you like, I can customize it for you. And you can be a size 2 or a size whatever. So I'm basically on all platforms aside from Twitter because I don't understand it. But that's where you can see my stuff.
Craig, how can we buy your pieces?
Well, the best way to get a hold of me at the moment is on my Instagram, NoWo Designs. You can email me at nowodesigns@gmail.com. You can track me down around town. That's probably the best. This is the business concept of this is still short on me, even though I have a bit of a business background with my day job. I was so tied up in making beauty, I didn't think about how I was going to monetize it yet. So let me get back to you on that. But you can follow me on NoWo Designs on Instagram. That's definitely a great way.
Van Sean, how can we buy your beautiful trousers?
I am currently an artist in residence at Canal Place, or should I say this high-end mall in New Orleans, where the Arts Council of New Orleans has this salon gallery plus artist studios, and I have my own studio space there. We're open Thursday through Sunday, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Also, my website, and it is kayi.vanshonbranch.com. I'm on Instagram. It is sort of like a personal Instagram account, but I'm pretty responsive via the social media. My personal accounts, all my handles are connected to me. Van Sean Kayi Branch. It's a one-man show. Individuals reach out to me. We schedule a consultation, and we can go further with a custom piece, or again, there are samples inside of the store. Yeah.
I would encourage everybody to just follow the West 18th Street Fashion Show. And I'm the creative director. My name's Peregrine Honig. So if I'm not on the ball enough to get it to that website and that Instagram, I'll probably put it in the stories of my own. But yeah, please follow the West 18th Street Fashion Show. And we have a website where we have all of the designers. We are building the history, and we are building the behind the scenes of the movie and how the movie was made this year, and also what we will be doing next year, which is going to be really incredible too. So West 18th Street Fashion Show, the Instagram, please follow it so you can stay up to date on what we're doing.
Well, thank you, designers. We have the Kansas City Museum. Thank you so much for shedding light on how you guys designed during this time of social unrest and time of pandemic. I really enjoyed the conversation. I hope our audience did too. Thank you, audience, for allowing us to go into your home on this Thursday evening. Thank you, Peregrine, for bringing these eclectic, talented designers together. As the museum reopens next fall, this is our platform. How do we highlight everybody who's making Kansas City so diverse, vibrant, and great, that I'm really honored and a pleasure to be working with you all. So until we meet again in person, thank you all so much.
Thank you for having
Thank you.
us.
Thank you, Kansas City Museum, for having us.
Yeah, thanks for taking care of us, and thank you for partnering with us. It's been such a pleasure, and we can't wait to, have a show of these garments that were in your space and just kind of show how we've interfaced with you guys over the past 3 years. More soon.
Thank you all so much. So yeah, if everything goes lovely, I hope to air the movie on the East Lawn next spring. So we'll talk about logistics to that. To everybody else, thank you for tuning in. The designers' bios and all information will be on our website as well at kansascitymuseum.org. That's kansascitymuseum.org. And the goal is to have these Restore KC virtual programs at least once or twice a month. So please tune in. As always, please be safe out there and be kind to one another, and continue to wear these when you're out there in public so we can get through this pandemic. Thank you, Peregrine.
Too.
Thank you all. Have a good night, and until we see you next time.